So what are we actually hearing with those sounds? There are 4 types of Doppler signal that you could report on your form. They would be triphasic, biphasic, monophasic, or absent. And learning what they are is actually fairly straightforward. The tri, bi, or mono refers to the number of distinct different sounds that you hear. So for example, a triphasic pulse would sound like this. And you've got 3 distinct sounds there. You've got Judith Barbara Brown's brilliant way of remembering it is sausage, bacon and eggs. So sausages, 3 sounds, bacon, bacon, or eggs, eggs. So biphasic will be and single monophasic eggs pulse will be. What you're actually hearing there is the blood, the fluid rushing through the artery. So the good way of thinking about this is like a bouncing ball. The first sound that you hear is the blood rushing down the artery from the heartbeat. So the heartbeat's up here and a wave of blood travels down the artery. And that first sound you're hearing is that blood rushing past the sensor. When that blood hits the sort of end of the road, the arteries and the capillaries, of course it causes them to stretch because they're elastic. A nice healthy artery is stretchy, so when a pressure wave goes down, the artery actually stretches that way. So think of it like a ball being dropped. There's the initial surge down, and then when it hits the end, it deforms and then it comes back, and the energy actually returns blood up the artery, and that's the backflow. That's the second sound. So the first sound is that, and the second sound is the blood coming back. And then if the arteries are sufficient enough, that backflow also causes the blood vessels to stretch, and then the elastic contraction causes them to come back down. So think of what you're hearing as the number of bounces of a ball on the ground. That will give you a feel for what you're feeling. So the first sound is blood coming down, second sound is backflow coming back up, and the third sound is the blood coming back down again. Sometimes you'll even hear a fourth sound. If the arteries are really, really bouncy, it is technically possible to hear and you get a little fourth sound. So what you're hearing is the number of bounces. Now, the number of bounces you get from your circulation is just like the number of bounces you get from the ball. It will be defined by 2 things. It will be defined by the bounciness of the ball, the elasticity of the blood vessels, in other words. So if you have arteriosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, then when the pressure wave comes down, it's not actually able to expand it very much. So you'll either get a sort of weaker bounce and contraction, in which case the ball will just bounce the one time, or you'll get or none at all, in which case you won't get any return, you'll just get the one signal. So the bounciness of the ball is like the stretchiness of the arteries. The more elasticated, the more rubbery, the more healthy the arteries are, the more bounces you will get. The second element that will affect whether or not you get monophasic, bi, tri, or in the case of the ball, 1, 2 or 3 bounces, is how hard the initial pressure wave is. So with the ball, if you drop it from higher, you will get more chances for more bounces than if you drop it right close to the ground. In the case of arteries, what we're talking about there is atherosclerosis, or narrowing or blockage of an artery. So if, for example, we've got a nice big pressure wave coming down there, but there's a narrow point in the artery, a plaque on the walls of the artery, or a blockage or an embolus or something like that, and it comes down and it hits that will rob it of all the energy. So what comes past that blockage or narrowing will be a lot less inclined to bounce it out. So you've got 2 elements. You've got the bounciness of the blood vessels and the power of the pressure wave, whether there's anything blocking the power of the pressure wave. 2 useful terms there, arteriosclerosis and atherosclerosis. Easier way to remember the difference between the 2. Arteriosclerosis, sclerosis hardening arterial arteries. Atherosclerosis is a blockage, and if you think about the letter H, that being in athero, the letter H looks like that, so it kind of looks like a blood vessel with a blockage across it. So if you think of atherosclerosis as the narrowing, the plaques on the edge, or a blockage in the artery. So once again, just to recap, what we're listening for with the Doppler is the number of pressure waves. Is it just a one pressure wave from the blood coming down, or is it then the backflow, or is it then the backflow which stretches the blood vessel sufficiently to get another secondary wave coming down that way? You're listening for the number of bounces, and that tells you either how elasticated the vessel walls are, or it tells you how hard the pressure wave. If you have less bounces, it will be either a blockage or a narrowing higher up, the atherosclerosis, or a loss of bounce, a loss of elasticity in the walls, arteriosclerosis, either of which, bad news.